listeners of the Bass Boosted podcast, I have constructed a theme song for this podcast. I hope you enjoy. It has been crowdfunded using your ad revenue. This is called the Bass Boosted theme song. Bass Boosted.
Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Why didn't you tell me you were gonna do that?
Yeah, and I like the fact that the guitar was slightly out of tune during that as well, just ever so slightly.
My guitar's always fucking out of tune according to you, dude. I feel this is a psychological tactic.
You're being gaslit.
Yeah.
Well,
guitarist gaslighting.
Yeah, exactly. Technically, you can never truly be in tune, like on a fundamental level.
Stop being so fucking philosophical. It sounds bad.
No, I'm not being philosophical. I mean, technically, your guitar is technically never perfectly in tune. That's just how it works. It's science, bitch. Yeah,
tell me more, Adam Neely.
Yeah, I know.
Your guitar technically can never be in tune.
There's no such thing as like a perfect point of anything. We all know. Well, not we all know, but I know, and you know. So, you're gay.
So
Bass Boosted is over forever after that terrible whatever that was. Okay. So, first off, you all get to call me a hypocrite. You may remember the last video I said, if you buy a ticket to Motley Crue, you have poo-poo in your brain. And my mother said, "Oh my god, I'd love to see Def Leppard." She doesn't even sound like that. And I said, "Oh no." Because we've been talking about going to see a gig at some point together, because I thought it'd be fun. And at first it was going to be Ghost, but then Ghost didn't work out for whatever reason, and I'd rather see Ghost, and I don't even like Ghost particularly. And then they announced the tour of Motley Crue and Def Leppard, and my mom's like, "Oh my god, Def Leppard." And I'm like, "Oh no." And she said, "Oh my god, you gotta come with me, me and my son going to see Def Leppard and Motley Crue." Oh no, so I bought tickets.
So not only is James a hypocrite, he's also defaming his mom on social media and comparing her to Sheila Broflovsky. So basically that means that James is an anti-Semite.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, I look somewhat Jewish, so that's my that is my shield.
Yeah, he has a Jewish friend in himself.
And so you might be thinking, "Wow, James, you're a hypocrite." Anyway, so our next story is, fuck. And yeah, okay, basically, it's just an excuse for my mother. Basically, I view it as like a Mother's Day present, like a late Mother's Day present, even though I already got her a Mother's Day present. So yeah, whatever, I guess I'm a mama's boy. But yeah, we got some...
You are obligated to make a video about that concert experience and to say how much it fucking sucks and how much Motley Crue should retire.
No, I probably fucking will. Because I'll be like, yeah, I had a nice night out with my mother. Too bad we went to see Def Leppard and Motley Crue.
That would be a perfect intro.
And if nothing else, this is something that you can, like, use as ammunition if you guys ever get into a heated argument in the future. Just, bitch, I fucking went to see these two god-awful bands with you. Don't ever forget that.
Yeah, I mean, like, hopefully they just get a decent opening band. Like, at the very least, I know in the States when they did this tour, they had Joan Jett opening, which, at least if they had Joan Jett, I'd be like, okay, cool, I get to see Joan Jett. But no, not even that. Hopefully they actually announce a good, I don't know, opening act of some sort that I give a shit about. But anyway, so... we actually have some sad news to start this off. Two bass players of bands that I've done retrospectives about kicked the bucket. That's Algy Ward from The Damned. He was also in The Saints and Tank. And Andy Rourke from The Smiths. Yeah, that sucks. What?
It's funny because neither band exists today. I don't know. Caleb was laughing for some odd reason.
You guys are awful people.
Well, I mean, okay, so... I find it hard.
Jokes in fucking James and Friends episodes before, James. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah, but they only just died, though.
We joke about people dying in James and Friends, but like...
yeah, but it's a 5-year rule, just like in South Park.
We don't actually, like, you know, take pride in anybody passing away. Well, maybe certain
Unless
people,
Sammy Hagar died, that would be really cool.
Maybe certain people. But no, like when it comes to band members dying, I mean, even in cases where like members of bands who we don't even necessarily like die, it's like, oh well, that fucking sucks.
But the thing is, with Algy Ward, he only played on like one album from the Saints and the Damned, but he played on their best albums. And Tank's pretty cool too, which he sang and played bass in. So yeah, listen to Machine Gun Etiquette and Eternally Yours. I think that's the name of the Saints album he did.
Funny side note. Remember when Tank split up into two bands, and for the one that didn't have Algy Ward, the vocalist of Dragon Force was in it at one point?
I don't. I can't. That makes no sense because Tank is basically just like, I don't. Okay, this might sound a bit mean, but you know, like very Motorhead-esque. I can't imagine that guy doing anything like that.
He actually was a lot better in Tank than he was in Skid Row.
Well, that's a low bar, but I'll take your word for it, I guess.
That's an amazing resume of bands that he's on. I'm probably going to avoid all those now.
Hey, at least there's 2 good bands in there.
Dragon Force is one of the few power metal bands Druid has expressed tolerance for.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it, bro. I play Guitar Hero 3 as well.
No, I played Guitar Hero DS. I never played Guitar Hero 3.
You played the Arthritis edition. You played the Arthritis edition.
For the health of my hands, they didn't include the Arthritis edition in that one. The one thing that the developers did right was not include Through the Fire and Flames.
No, but even then, I went back to it years later. I bought it again because I lost it as a kid. And I played it again. I couldn't play any longer than like half an hour without my hands just like cramping up and it really hurting. And the funny thing is, only last week I've been experiencing a little bit of carpal tunnel. And if I was a betting man, I would bet it right on playing that again at like 15. So
speaking of shit that fucks with your hands, with the Silent Hill 2 remake that's coming out pretty soon, I've recently started playing the original on PS2, which cost like $80 fucking on eBay. The game, not the fucking console. And I'm enjoying it.
The game costs more than the console.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it, but holy shit, those tank controls have aged like ass. Like, I feel like I have to play like Sudoku with the controller just to like run in a certain direction sometimes.
Yeah, there's a reason why tank controls went the way of the dodo after a while, because that was a necessity at some point, sure, but God, thank God, that's something we don't need to see come back. We see all these SNES-esque games come out and everything, and people are like, oh, so nostalgic. No one's pining for tank controls.
Yeah, there's no reason to play a lot of like those older games that are being remade now, except for like having a nostalgia trip.
Yeah, or just for the novelty of it, basically.
Like, I remember a couple years ago, I played Ocarina of Time, an emulation of Ocarina of Time, on a laptop. So, like, there wasn't even, like, a joystick or anything. I could only, like, fucking go fucking forward, backward, leftward, and right. So the controls were already, like, more limited than they had to be. And, like, that shit was like way smoother than fucking Silent Hill 2. Right. It's crazy how much that game did for like pushing game controls forward, and it took the rest of the gaming world like years to fucking catch up to it.
Do you guys remember when they made that HD collection of Silent Hill games and Konami gave the developers incomplete code?
They used like a previous, and and it was like worse than the original.
Yeah, it's like fucking like God. And now like Konami's finally coming back. They're doing some more shit. They're doing that Silent Hill remake. They're doing a remake of I think MGS 2 or 3. And I'm very skeptical of all that because, you know, they're just one of those companies. They make more money from pachinko machines in Japan than they do from video games like Sega, you know? So it's pretty fucking lame.
I differ when it comes to your guys' opinion on remakes. I think that the remakes that have been coming out now have actually been pretty good. They're not like, you know, movie remakes where there's no reason to see it if the original movie's still good. Like with games,
we're talking about video games.
I know. Like with games, it's different. Like a lot of the game remakes that have been coming out, like HD remasters or recoding or shit like that.
A lot of them are really good. Yeah. Oh no, a lot of them are really good, but when they suck and are worse than the originals, like that should just never happen ever.
Like the fucking remake of Resident Evil 2 has rendered the original like virtually obsolete.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But then you have okay, so
fucking...
I personally don't know the reason why, but people say that the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas remasters are like the old Grand Theft Auto remasters were absolute trash. The only argument I've seen for that is graphics. Like that's the only one I've seen. There's probably more out there.
They look worse than the originals.
I wouldn't.
They
say
do
that.
look worse because it looks like fucking Play-Doh. And like the art style kind of went to shit because you can tell they used AI to upscale all that kind of stuff. And not to mention they got rid of fog in GT and San Andreas, so the map looks way smaller than it actually is, and it looks like really.
They did the
shitty.
same thing in the Silent Hill remasters.
Wait, they removed the fog
like...
from Silent Hill.
What?
Yes. And I think like, the reason for it is because like they originally used the fog to like hide some of the like. You know, technological limitations of the game, but it added to the fucking atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, It's like, yeah, people don't get that kind of stuff. It's not just, it may have started as a performance enhancer, but it served a bigger purpose in that in the long, in the long game, basically.
The difference between Silent Hill 2 and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, like having the fog removed, is that Silent Hill, it works as an additional function for horror purposes. But if you had the same function in the Grand Theft Auto remasters, it wouldn't honestly make a lot of sense unless it was just a really foggy season.
Well, like, the reason why they had fog originally was
it's a technical thing.
It was to help performance, and it hid, it kind of like made the world seem bigger than it was, because when you jump up on like a big mountain or whatever, you couldn't see every part of the map and see how small they really were.
Yeah, but after Grand Theft Auto 5, you don't really need that.
Well, you don't. Well, in GTA 5, it's a different story because the map itself is much bigger
in scope, though.
Yeah, with San Andreas, it's a different story, and not to mention, it just overall jankier. They removed songs. It's literally worse.
Okay, removing songs is a crime.
The only thing they have going for them is the fact that, you can buy them today and they're more readily available, I guess. And the thing is, I don't particularly like the old GTAs, at least going back to them now, just because I do think they've aged quite poorly. And one thing I'll give the newer games credit for is they have controls from GTA 5 and 4, but still, I'd much rather play the original just because the art direction is much better and they worked with the lower resolution far better than these new ones because it just looks like Play-Doh. Sorry?
Even a lot of those fucking remasters, even aside from getting rid of the fog, they just make the lighting brighter and shit, which gets rid of the atmosphere of a lot of the darker rooms.
Oh yeah, the Halo, the remake of Halo 1 did that a lot.
And also fucking, I don't even know why they did this. With the fucking HD remaster of Silent Hill 2, at the beginning of the game where you find that sign that says Silent Hill Ranch, in the remaster, they replaced the font with Comic Sans.
I thought for a second, I thought you were going to say they replaced it with Ram Ranch. I'll show myself out.
That would be more respectable.
Everybody type haha in the comments if you actually laughed to that, as you heard it.
Blink-182 have reunited and they've been playing shows. People saying, wow, they sound really good. Turns out they're using autotune for their vocals, which... I'm sorry, that's lame.
Yawn. I mean, well, okay,
I'd still
but...
rather this. I would still rather that than another album like 9.
Same, but the same people saying oh yeah, well, Tom and Mark aren't great singers and all that. Yes, they're not, but I'd rather hear Tom croak than hear it through autotune. Because at the end of the day, sure, it's pop punk, but it's still punk in some vein.
The imperfection adds to the fucking charm.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's if you want a perfect performance, just sit home, listen to the records.
I forgot that Blink-182 even broke up. I forgot they even reformed. Honestly, Blink-182 have just been around even if they broke up.
Well, they have been around, but Tom DeLonge left the band.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And then he got into a cat fight with Mark over some bullshit, but I guess that's over.
Yeah, which I don't know. My sister bought me tickets as a birthday present last year, so I already have tickets. I don't have much of a choice now, but I guess we'll see then. So yeah, that's kind of lame. And people defending this, come on, Like, I'm sorry, I know this is how the industry is now, but it doesn't mean we have to be okay with it.
Fight the power, bro.
No, you don't understand. They're gonna take their next record in a more pop direction, and the autotune will make more sense that way.
Oh god, speaking of which, that new song was terrible.
Yeah, but what else?
I
is
didn't
new?
listen to it. Is it like more in the vein of what they're doing now, or is it like similar to like Neighborhoods or something?
It's not similar to Neighborhoods. It's like they're like, oh, they like us being goofy and charming, and yeah, so they did that, except Tom forgot to write any riffs, and like the hook is pretty heinous, and I don't like the production on it. Travis Barker is not that good of a producer, so yeah. And and our next one, before we go into like the 2 viewer questions we have, it's gonna be a bit of a shorter video, because the last one was a pain in the ass to edit because it was just almost 2 hours, and I bit off more than I could chew with all those viewer questions.
Ever since the Alice Cooper retrospective, James does not like making long videos anymore.
Yeah, and the worst part is I look back on that Alice Cooper video like, God, this is terrible. I actually unlisted it. You can still watch it, but I unlisted it because I noticed it was getting a lot of views, and it was starting to kind of like get a lot of views and everything. Like more than a lot of other videos. Like, oh god, I don't want this to be the thing people find me for, so I enlisted it so it won't be like an opening way for it. Because I've gotten comments, people saying, wow, this is a terrible video from the Alice Cooper video. I'm like, yeah, I don't have much of an excuse for it.
Yeah, but most of the time they only
17.
say that most of the time they only say it's a terrible video because it's like, you know, people who don't like your opinions on certain albums.
Yeah, fair, but I was also a bit harsh when I shouldn't have been, and I made some dumbass jokes. Like, I made a joke. It's like, I find Chris Cornell's voice more grating than the rope grated on Chris Cornell's neck. Like, that's something I do
See,
regret.
that's funny. See, that's comedy gold right there.
It's not bad because it's edgy. It's just bad because it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. I was like 18, and that was back when edgy, for sake of being edgy, was the meta. So
yeah,
that's my excuse.
But I wouldn't say that it's like, you know, like a fucking iDub situation of like, oh, I apologize for making bigoted and unthing content in the past, yada yada.
Honestly, iDubbbz definitely, like, just to kind of go off the topic, iDubbbz definitely put himself down a bit more than I thought he needed to. Like, besides maybe the Tandem Mojo video, I don't think most of them were that bad. Like, especially the Leafy video. He was bullying Leafy, sure, but that's because Leafy was a bully.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if people want to get mad at that, like, bro, it's his videos. He's allowed to think about what he wants. Like, and people like are outright being misogynistic, like, oh, your girlfriend changed you, man. It's like, bro. Get a life.
Like, oh my god, they're in an open relationship, and it's like, okay, that just means he's allowed to get more pussy. What are you bitching about?
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. No, getting back to the Alice Cooper thing though, like when it comes to like old ass jokes that are outdated and shit, it's like, yeah, it's not what, you know, you want to be seen for at the time, and it's not what people want to take you seriously as, but at the same time, it's not what people were taking you seriously as to begin with. Everybody knew it was ironic. Same thing.
No one was taking me seriously then.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like, I could forgive it if the joke was at least good. Kind of, because there are some kind of funny offensive jokes I made back in the day, which I probably wouldn't make now, but I could still see it, like, okay, that's still funny.
Same.
But that isn't one of those. I'm not like outright ashamed of it, but I do look back and cringe. But then again, that's one of few videos I still have from my I think that's the only, that and the Skid Row video, those are the only 2 videos I have from my downfall days, which may be a good thing Brody deleted those videos. So
your cover killer video is the best thing you did for downfall.
It probably was. Oh god,
I can kind of flex,
you guys will never see this because I wish I still had it, even though I might it's one of those things I might just cringe looking back at it. But Cover Killer Nation used to make those videos like 5 reasons people hate X band, or 5 reasons people think this way, and I made 5 reasons why people hate Cover Killer Nation, and it was a 30-second long shit post.
See, I can flex on you because the worst thing I ever did, like when it came to old content, was just be a horrible charisma vacuum on screen.
No, the worst thing you ever did was edit that Painkiller song review. That's and it's not the worst because of your editing. It's the worst because of what Brody made you do.
The video that shall not be named. Let's not talk about this.
Yeah, that's
Anybody who's part of the real ones will know what we're talking about and will be like, yeah, it's the time where Drew said the N-word.
Yeah, and when he said that, he literally said the N-word. He just went the N-word. He didn't say the
only
N-word.
good part of that video. The contrast between how like animated he is and Druid just sounding like he wants to fucking die.
Because I did, dude. Bro, like when I was making that video, like I was repeatedly asked again and again, just say the N-word, and I'm like, no. And then he's like, no, you don't understand. You don't actually have to say the N-word. You just say the N-word. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? What? Why? But I ended up doing it anyways because he kept being fucking annoying.
We all have our skeletons in our closet, basically.
Yeah.
Except my skeleton's smaller than yours.
Glad I didn't get anything uploaded to that fucking channel. I feel like that would like do me like life harm if I did.
Yeah, that's funny. I doubt you guys care much, but I'll quickly talk about it. There's some Oasis drama. It's like fucking like basically Liam and Noel Gallagher are playing a game of chicken with each other. Just like, call me first. No, you call me. No, you call me about a reunion. No, you call me about a reunion. And it's really funny. And part of me just thinks, okay, they got to be just putting this on because they're gonna announce a reunion like next year or something, which maybe. But on the other hand, they're not acting that much different than how they ever did.
No, they're reenacting part of Beatles history where like the Beatles almost reunited because of like I think it was like the Dick Cavett show or something.
No, SNL.
But this time around it's going to be Liam Gallagher getting a 38 snub to the right in the head.
Yet another washed up 90s band can't be fucked.
Except instead of going on SNL, they're gonna go on Late Night with James Corden. I wouldn't mind seeing an Oasis reunion, but at the same time, I don't really care that much. Like, if they make any new music, it probably won't be that great. Like, I like some of Liam Gallagher's solo songs. And,
when like a classic like rock band who have like legendary albums like reforms, and everybody's like, hell yeah, they reformed together, and then they make a new album and it's just full of like dad rock crap that wouldn't even have flown when they released it in their time when their heyday happened.
Many such cases.
Many cases to count.
Or you can be like Motley Crue and release stuff that makes you look incredibly desperate.
Yeah.
Sex, If I Die Tomorrow, the entirety of Saints of Los Angeles.
The entirety of Generation Swine, most of New Tattoo.
Even the bad Motley Crue albums, like, need you find 1 or 2 songs, I don't mind. Saints of Los Angeles, there's not a single second worth saving. It's like, all terrible.
With the exception of like Nathan, we don't like Dr. Feelgood, but at least like when I listen to Dr. Feelgood, it's like, okay, this is like an authentic product of like its era, and I can feel a lot of like enthusiasm and just like, you know, it transports me back to like that time. The shit that Motley Crue were doing during the 2000s just felt so fucking like forced, and like it was pandering to people who wished that they were still like moderately attractive.
It's times like this that I realize just how blissful I really am when the rest of the boys are talking about these dog shit small penis bands. And I have like no idea what they're talking about.
Teenage Suicide. I don't want to fucking hear it.
And I'll have you know, Tommy Lee has a huge cock.
I'm not going to say anything in defense of teen suicide.
Because sex tapes, so I don't know.
I'm not going to say anything in defense of teen suicide because that might not age well. I don't know.
And speaking of Oasis somewhat, Noel Gallagher released a cover of Joy Division's Level Tear Us Apart, and just before he did it, he said, wow, I think I'm at a point where I can really do this song. He was not.
Do we need more covers of Level Tear Us Apart?
No. There's like
especially covers by James.
No one knows of that. I'm sure of it. No one knows of that. That's it's not even in the vault. It's in the ether at this point. See, that's the power of bullying, ladies and gentlemen. It's the power of bullying.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, the one good cover of that song I've heard was by Swans. So
yeah, both of their covers of that song are good.
There you go. If you want a recommendation of a Level Tear Us Apart cover, there you go. That's got all our seals of approval. All right, and so we got a couple of questions, and some of these were put in before, like right after we recorded the last one, and some of them been put in since. And by the way, just so you know, You can put in questions at any time, and hopefully we should get to them, like in the viewer questions channel on the Scoop Mids Discord. So just so everyone knows, I think I said that, but I might not have. So one of them was from Echozawa.
Ekozawa.
Yeah, that
God, what
sounds.
an asshole. He should have been born in a more pronounceable country.
Yeah, get more pronouns.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
he said favorite Beatles song.
Day in the life.
Yeah, Day in the Life's pretty great. The one I always come back to is In My Life, because like if I feel sad, that's like one that's guaranteed to bring me to tears.
Kind of hard to say, but it would be anything off Magical Mystery Tour.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I guess another honorable mention is Baby You're a Rich Man. You know something I've been thinking about? Like I just released the top 10 punk bands with one album. People saying, oh, such and such band actually has 2 albums, but the other album is an EP, so no wonder why I didn't fucking include it. But Magical Mystery Tour is technically a double EP. Does that count as an album?
At this point, yeah.
Yeah,
May as
'cause
well,
nobody makes the distinction anymore. I mean, it's an overlooked entry into the Beatles discography for sure, but like a double EP is like, why the fuck are you making?
Because at that point, it all just kind of boils down to like the format that it's released under. But if you just take it as like a musical work, it's basically the same as an album.
Yeah,
Right.
basically. I mean, like you can say the same thing for Jar of Flies, Alice in Chains, where it's like it's half an hour. It's not quite as long as like Dirt, but it's still like longer than a lot of albums. Yeah. The first pressing of Earth AD by the Misfits is 15 minutes, but that's still considered an album. So
Yeah, and to all the people commenting about, hey, why didn't you put X band here or this band here? It's a psyop. There's gonna be a
Yeah,
sequel
basically.
soon. There's a sequel, and you are crowdsourcing for it.
yeah.
We aren't paying you though.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, if anyone wants to know, the reason why I only included bands with only one studio album is because I just didn't want to play semantics at all. And I didn't want to be like, oh, this band only has one album, but they release another album 30 years later that nobody likes. It's like, no, that counts. I don't want to, like, I'm not into playing semantics because that is annoying. From Medium Chungus, what's your favorite concert you have been to? Ooh, I don't know. It's I've been to a lot of good ones. Like when I saw the Damned a few years ago in like a tiny club, that was pretty great. I'm gonna go see them again tomorrow with Nathan. So
I saw Metallica at a baseball stadium near where I live back in like 2017, and that was pretty great. Like even like when they were playing some of the songs from Hardwired that I don't care for, I enjoyed myself. And then like the second half of the show was all old stuff, and that was pretty fantastic, and it sounded incredible. And
nice.
yeah, probably that one.
Even
though Volbeat opened for them.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. How could you forget? How could you forget, bro? Volbeat opened.
I can't say I've been to any good concerts. I may as well just say I've never been to any concerts. Like, my mom brought me stuff back from a Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert back in, like, 2006, but that's about it.
Ooh.
I want my first show, though, to be this, like, beat-down hardcore show where people are just fucking, like, punching each other and kicking each other. That's what I want to have.
You basically want to go to the Denny's Breakdown Slam?
Yes.
I've never been to a show that's not, like, safeguarded to shit. So, yeah, going to, like, a fucking beatdown show would definitely be something.
Yeah. I've never been to a beatdown show, or whatever, but I've been to I've been to gigs at bars and stuff like that. Like I've seen the Chats twice at a bar, and that was pretty good. Then the next time they were playing basically a theater. I'm like, oh, come on.
Dude, I remember the last fucking show I was at a fucking gay bar, and
Epic.
It was because of my friends, and this fucking band was playing, and like the band started playing like an intense part of the song, and the vocalist started screaming, and then we all started moshing, and it was like the only part of the show that I like actually kind of really liked. And then like 20 seconds into it, the fucking security guards walk in and like tell everyone to like stop it, and like,
fucking
fuck
gay.
You.
Jesus. Yeah, because I've definitely been to more gigs than you guys have. I haven't been to that many in the grand scheme of things, but I've definitely been to a good amount. Let's see. I went to the Download Festival like 2 years ago, whatever. I saw Slayer, Anthrax. Anthrax is probably the best band I saw that day. Surprisingly enough, they put on a really great show, and I'm not a huge Anthrax fan. Yeah, I saw Alice in Chains, what? Sorry.
I said he doesn't even like Persistence of Time.
Based.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bleh. Sound of White Noise fucking crushes though, and of course I didn't play any of that shit. But I saw Alice in Chains, which I mean they were good, but they played a lot of new stuff, which I'm just not a big fan of. But the main thing that pissed me off is right at the end after they played. I can't remember what the last song was, probably Rooster or something. But Jerry Cantrell, he threw a solo cup's worth of picks into the audience right in my direction, and I saw one on the ground. I went to pick it up, and then like someone's ass just kind of bumped me in the face. And then when I finally retained my composure, the pick was gone. I'm like, how did I fuck that up?
I remember I saw I think this was when I saw UFO. It was either when I saw UFO or when I saw a Van Halen cover band. This was in like 2015 or 16. The drummer threw his drumstick into the crowd, and it like slid across the fucking crowd, and it hit me in the fucking nose. But I also got personally handed a fucking guitar pick from the guitarist though, so that was pretty great. Cool.
I got one guitar pick from a show when I went to see Black Sabbath on the End tour, and I was like I was pretty much front row on Geezer's side, and he threw out picks at the end of the show, which is weird because he doesn't play with a pick, but still he threw out picks with his and the pick has his signature on it, and the other side has a minion on it, so that's kind of gay. But yeah, I do have a pick from a show, a Geezer Butler pick, which technically maybe shouldn't count because he doesn't play with a pick, but whatever.
Weezer Butler. I'll see myself out.
Wow, that's gonna be the next Weezer album, isn't it? Weezer Butler.
It's all Sabbath covers.
Reflect in the sky.
Yeah.
Generals gathered in their masses.
Oh, Christ. I would love to hear them try and do Supernaut or Electric Funeral.
Symptom of the universe.
He's like doing the voice kind of whiny like on Pinkerton.
Me too, the end.
Yeah, I'd probably say the Damn show I saw in 2018 is probably my favorite, just because, like, just before they went on, they announced, oh, this is, we're playing Machine Gun Etiquette in its entirety. I'm like, oh, fucking nice, because that's my favorite Damned album, so probably that one, I think. We got one from Sebi, last of the viewer questions. Best song you listen to because it's a meme. Not really guilty pleasure or irony, just genuine stupid enjoyment. Mine is the legendary Temporary Secretary by Paul McCartney. I love Temporary Secretary.
There's a lot of that songs. Song. There's a lot of those.
Barbie Girl, that's a banger.
Boo, F tier.
It's just fucking fun.
Slob on my knob by 666 Mafia.
Slob on my knob, like corn on the cob.
Like, the lyrics are so, like, stupid and horny, and yet, like, you have these dramatic-ass, serious-sounding pianos in the background and shit.
I have a couple of, like, there's a couple of, like, 9/11 truther songs that live in my mind rent-free. There's one, I think it's called 9/11 Was an Inside Job. It's like a metal-ish song. And,
is it the one where the chorus is like, 9/11 was an inside job, 9/11...
Yeah, pretty much. And the guy singing is like, he just stares. Like, most of the time when people like sing into a camera or whatever for a music video, they're kind of like acting, you know, like as you'd expect, kind of moving around and stuff. He is dead fucking still, just staring into your eyes while he sings.
Well, like Seth Everman style.
Freaks by Broken Side.
The guy who did Fuck Shit Stack. That's
Reggie Watts.
Take some fuck, then some shit, then some fuck, then some shit. You got a fuck shit stack. A fuck shit stack.
I love gay sus remixes of songs.
Oh yeah, those are good.
There's this fucking Every Other Beat Is Missing version of Holy Wars.
Look that up. At the end, Dave outright says the N-word. It's funny.
Yeah.
Tunak Tunaktun, Golly
Tunak, yeah. Tunak is like the perfect like meme enjoyment song.
I only
let's see.
ever listen to the version where it gets slightly faster every time he says tuna.
Sounds great. Dancing in the Street, Mick Jagger and David Bowie.
Bohemian Whopsody.
That's a wet ass pussy. Macaroni.
I think my
Yeah.
current favorite right now is the song.
This bitch just hit my line talking about
Yeah, that's great. Oh, speaking of which,
No.
Psycho Daddy or Psycho Sucker, Psycho something or other.
Hate your face. Eat shit and die today.
Yeah, and speaking of sus remixes, there's a great one. It's Earth, Wind, and Fire. Look up Earth, Wind, and Fire Sus-tember.
Do you remember when I fucked your ass to timber?
There's also Gadioactive. That's one of my favorites.
Everything by Travis Scotch. Not Travis Scott, Travis Scotch. Look it up.
Travis Scott is a fake. All of the music he makes is stolen from me.
Oh, speaking of Travis Scott, Caleb, have you heard of Submarine Man?
No.
He's like the dude who paved the way for Travis Scott to do what he did, and he released a new album which is like kind of more off the walls, crazy and stupid than Travis Scott.
Well, fucking Pink Guy paved the way for all of that stuff.
Kinda.
If we're talking about this kind of music, then definitely the GOAT is Pink Guy.
Yeah. Nobody's ever done it better.
Yeah, so
I'm in the
Yeah, that's all of
unpopular
your-
opinion camp of like thinking that the Pink Guy stuff is still kind of just novelty and that's it.
oh yeah, somewhat, but like a lot of it's like he wrote some legit catchy hooks and shit.
The best stab at like actually making good music he ever did was the Chloe Burbank stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. But lyrics like poo poo, pee pee, penis, and vagina, women with weak dicks, and men with
no,
vaginas.
no.
That, you can't beat
Women
that
with dicks and
anything on Chloe
no.
Burbank. You cannot beat anything
No.
on Chloe Burbank.
You
with
said
that.
it. No, you said it wrong. It's women with dicks and weak men with vaginas.
Ah, wait. Yeah.
Also, Druid, how can you dislike My Dick Like Americans Too Fat But Dangerous?
Because that's a fucking Eminem line. I know
And-
Eminem
and,
would have written that shit.
Wait. And also, speaking of which, "Kill Yourself" is maybe the best beat I've ever heard.
Yeah.
God, the fuck up.
Yeah, that's nothing has ever. That's like, as soon as first time I saw that, I'm like, yes, that's like
The beat is funnier than the lyrics.
Yeah. That is reason why sampling was first invented. So in 2013
Yeah.
or whatever, Pink Guy could do that. All right, so next up is what we've been playing, reading, watching, just what we've been occupying ourselves with. Like, I have seen
Okay.
2 movies in the theater, which was Evil Dead Rise and the new Guardians of the Galaxy, and I thoroughly enjoyed both. And I know you've seen Evil Dead Rise, Caleb. I know if you have, Drew.
No, I haven't.
Okay, well. But yeah, I really liked Evil Dead Rise. I think some people are kind of overrating it a little bit, just because it's got really great gore and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, it's really good. But I think people are kind of like putting it on a bit too high of a pedestal. Sure, it's better than the remake, and the remake wasn't that bad, but it's better than the remake. But you know, it's no Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness at the end of the day.
I liked it. It was like a 7 for me. It was fun.
Yeah, I
mean,
agree.
The one thing I disliked though was just like how there wasn't a whole lot of like quiet tension in it. It was just constant like loud, scary music and scary stuff happening. And after a while, it was a little like numbing. You know, I feel like it would have been more effective if it were like the original Evil Dead, where like there was a lot of like more like subtle, quiet moments and stuff. It seems like the
Right.
rest of the Evil Dead movies don't really have that, but that's just like a me thing. But I did appreciate how there weren't too many like false jump scares, and it didn't.
There's
do
only
the
one.
thing yeah, there's only one, and it didn't do the fucking thing that every goddamn stupid modern horror movie does, where like the person's walking down a dark, scary hallway, and the music's getting louder and louder, and it's like baiting you into thinking some spooky shit's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden the music cuts off and you're supposed to be like, oh no, everything's fine, and then it just hits you with a loud jump scare.
Yeah, that's fucking gay.
I hate that shit. It's insulting to my fucking intelligence, and it's predictable as shit.
Yeah, I hate that shit too. It's fucking garbage. But yeah, like, you know, I like the characters. I think they're kind of almost trying too hard to be relatable and some things. Like, in one of the characters, they made a DJ just because it's a vinyl record that summons the Cenobites in this one. So like, oh, just make him a DJ, even though they could have just clearly had him have a record player instead of making him a wannabe DJ, which I thought was kind of stupid. And there's a couple other little things like that. I didn't care for the characters as much as they were probably hoping I would. And there was this is maybe just me, maybe just the theater I went to, but I'm not gonna blame really the movie for this. But there was if you ever see a group of lads come sit next to you while you're sitting in a theater, just fucking move or just walk out, because you know you already fucked it, because they were making little like comments or something, like the kind of comments you make when you're watching something with your friends at home, but they're doing it for everybody to hear. Even after I to ask them to stop, they didn't, so I moved a little bit, but even then I can still hear them.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. And the last few times I've been in the theater, it's been pretty good, but that just really pissed me off, so that was fucking awful. And also, the speakers are really loud, and I found myself kind of covering my ears a little bit, so every like loud thing was really piercing. And I've been to that theater, I went to the same theater when I went to Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was fine in that aspect. So I don't really understand why it was like that for that one. It was just really piercing and hurting. Maybe just the way it was mixed, or the way the sound was EQ'd, or something. I have no idea.
It's audience immersion,
I saw it
bro.
with my fucking friends, and I was slightly high, so I didn't really have a whole lot to say anyway.
And by slightly, we mean slightly relative to Caleb's normal amount of high.
Yeah.
I don't actually do drugs all that much.
And the last time I got high was like last year, and I just watched Futurama for like 2 hours, and that was pretty great.
Nice.
Okay. And then what else have we been doing? Guardians of the Galaxy was pretty good. That's some quality cape shit. But I don't see myself ever going to see a new Marvel movie now, because the only reason I went to see this one was because it's James Gunn, whom I'm a fan of ever since fucking Slither. Honestly, I liked it more than The Evil Dead, which that's weird for me. Like, because Evil Dead's one of my favorite franchises, and I liked the new Guardians of the Galaxy more. But yeah, so I don't know if you're kind of sick of Marvel or whatever. I don't know, give it a shot. Give the new Guardians of the Galaxy a shot, I guess. The funny thing is, it's the only movie I've ever seen that has like a really well, not the only one, but it's like a really stacked soundtrack of like, there's like Faith No More, fucking Axe Replacements, a bunch of cool shit. So Beastie Boys, stuff like that. And like, they work really well in the context of the movie. It's not just Suicide Squad. It's like, oh, remember Bohemian Rhapsody? Or remember Eminem? It's like an actual like good use of the song.
No,
which
I don't want to remember
Eminem.
Eminem.
Yeah, so I'll always applaud James Gunn for, and I guess it's good that I like that he's going to DC now, because maybe he can actually have some good DC stories, but I kind of would rather him just go off and do his own thing. But he's like a comic book nerd, so I guess that will never happen. So yeah, new Guardians of the Galaxy was also pretty good. I just started watching Breaking Bad. I'm only about 10 years late.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty fucking great, not gonna lie.
I'm in the process myself.
Yeah, so that's something I've been going through. I've been meaning to for a while, I just haven't gotten around to it. But that's mainly just because I'm in the middle of watching Twin Peaks, and I'm waiting for Fire Walk With Me to come with me. So I've finished the first 2 seasons. But the thing is, Fire Walk With Me is not on any streaming services. The closest thing is you can buy it on YouTube for like $15. And it's like, okay, at that point I may as well buy it. So I bought the complete mystery / the missing pieces, and it came to me, but instead of receiving a Blu-ray of Twin Peaks, I instead received an 8 terabyte Samsung SSD hard drive.
See, this is true to David Lynch's vision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I got that, and I was on the phone with Amazon like, yo, what the fuck is this? But the funny thing is, I don't have to, and the thing is, this drive is worth like $700. And someone just really fucked up at Amazon. And they're saying like, oh, we can get your money back if you send the thing back. Well, it's like, well, technically I don't have to send this drive back because you sent it to me by mistake, but I am still owed that money, or you send me the Blu-ray again. But at this point, just give me my money back. So they give me my money back, and I just ordered it on Blu-ray. So I basically have a $700 drive for free. So when I build a new PC, that's what's going in it, I guess. I've also played through 2 games. One was The Quarry, which I don't really recommend much. It's just kind of a cringy, sort of very mid experience. So much so that at the end, I pretty much purposely gave myself the bad ending where everyone dies and the curse is not broken. Yeah, I don't particularly recommend it, especially since 2K kind of fucked me over because I accidentally bought the Xbox One version when I met the Series X version. And usually if you buy the last gen version of a game, they'll give you the new one for free. Or if not, you can just pay like $5-10, and that's what I had to do for The Quarry. So I was like, okay, I'll pay the $10, and then I did. But then I read the fine print and I did work, and it said only is applicable if you own the digital version of the game, and I own the physical version of the game. So I was already $10 in, so I was like, great. So I just bought it digitally as well. So technically, I bought the game twice, and it's not that good. I don't recommend it. Granted, I may be slightly biased, but it's fuck 2K.
This dude really out here still buying physical copies of games in 2023.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah, me too. I do that too. When you're playing like fucking, especially if you're gonna be playing shit on like older consoles, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for older consoles.
And I like stocking up, and not to mention physical games a lot of time are cheaper than digital. And I like having the physical product, and I like putting it on my shelf. I can see it for every other console other than Switch, but with the Switch, like the game is actually on the cart, whereas nowadays only like a gig or two are on the actual discs. And also, Drew, you're mainly on PC now. Of course, you don't buy physical games.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of a half joke because like I do like physical media, like CDs and DVDs and stuff like that, but I also am a PC gamer, so like I'm so used to downloading shit and just having it played from there.
It makes sense for PC because Steam has way better sales. But even saying that, Steam sales aren't what they used to be, or maybe that's just me. It's not. They're not as good.
Yeah.
And like, especially since like games just don't go on sale like they used to. You know, like a game used to come out, it'd be $60. Within like a few months, it would go down to $30. That doesn't really happen anymore. Am I the only one who's been noticing this?
During the summer sale on Steam, it does, but like summer sales have been getting less and less like bargain bin natured and more just like, oh, that $60 game I can buy is now down by $20. Hell yeah, summer sale.
yeah, like I remember back in the day people's like, oh my god, Steam summer sale, I just bought 20 games for $5 altogether or something.
Yeah, those were the days. I'm forever nostalgic for those.
Yeah, fucking not a thing anymore. RIP. But yeah, so yeah, The Quarry, not that great. Funny thing is, while I was playing through it, John from the Discord randomly messaged me saying like, hey, do you like games like Until Dawn and The Quarry? It's like, wow, what a coincidence. I'm playing The Quarry right now, and it's pretty mid. And there's one section that I might use as a cold opening for this, of this peanut butter pop song that multiple characters sing. And it is the most cursed, cringy thing I've ever seen. If you think Life is Strange can be cringe, oh, you have no idea. It's awful.
I can send you some cringe Life is Strange clips to play before that cold open, or to compare.
Watch the Teen Tood.
Jesus. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna keep it that way. I only played the last. I've only ever played the last Life is Strange game, which I thought was actually kind of okay, but I've never played the ones before that. And then I played The Last of Us on PS5, and the game is great. I don't know why people all of a sudden have a hate boner towards it. I think it's mainly just because people have a problem with the sequel, which I'm only about 2 or 3 hours into the sequel, and the main thing people are pissed off about is like it's done well. So I don't understand, and it makes sense within the story, so I don't really understand why people are so mad at it or whatever. I can understand being mad at Naughty Dog. Well, I can understand being mad at Naughty Dog to begin with, because the reason why it got leaked was because they were crunching their employees and it was a really toxic work environment. Then after someone got fired, they went, all right, fuck you, and they leaked the story, which I have no sympathy for Naughty Dog in that regard. Fuck you.
I don't think people have a hate boner for it because of the sequel. I think if anything, the sequel has made a lot of people like appreciate the original more. I think Okay, I've also been playing. I fucking played The Last of Us recently, and I agree, it's great, but I think people mostly have a hate boner for it now because of a lot of the shit that it influenced, like a lot of these
that as well.
stuff.
But the funny thing is, like, yes, it has like some fluff where the story takes focus or whatever, and yeah, I won't deny that we're basically just like pushing the right stick forward while listening to dialogue.
Those parts are great though.
Yeah, those parts are done well, but also other games do that don't get anywhere near as much shit. Red Dead Redemption 2 does it a lot. No, I've never seen anyone shit on Red Dead 2 for that reason. But it has the same amount of like 3D fluff that a lot of games like that have, but that doesn't get any shit. It's stupid.
Yeah, so. I mean, people like shit like that is considered like permissible in a lot of movies and stuff. Like, not everything has to like add to the plot. So, like, why the fuck can't that also be the case with video games, you know?
Yeah, not to mention, like, the gameplay is pretty great. I loved stealthing around. I loved, some of my favorite parts of the... Yeah, some of my favorite parts of the game was, like, when, like, you're just running around with Ellie or something, and I'm, like, and you're looking for, you're scavenging for supplies and just going back and forth about random things. That's some of my favorite parts of the game. Super great.
It is funny though how like Ellie is like way more useful in like combat than Tess was.
Yeah, pretty much, because Tess dies pretty early on. That's hardly a spoiler, but you know. Have you ever played The Last of Us, Drew?
I haven't played The Last of Us, but I do respect at least the quality of some of Naughty Dog's games after playing like, you know, Uncharted and stuff. Like when I first heard about The Last of Us, I'm like, I'll pass. Because it just didn't seem like an interesting premise for me. Like, I didn't like the whole idea of, like, you know, escorting some person that you have to talk with the entire fucking time across, you know, a cross-country trip. But then I played Life is Strange, and now I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll play The Last of Us someday. And then a few more years went by, and now I'm like, I've missed the hype train completely, to the point where even I'm not hyped anymore.
Well, I missed the hype train too, because I didn't really care for it at the time when it came out either. But when that series came out, if nothing else, I would recommend watching the series, because it's pretty well done, and you can basically you can watch one before doing the other, and it doesn't really matter which one you do first or whatever.
The game's better though.
I do think the game is better, but you still get the story is still told pretty well through, you know, the series.
I agree.
Yeah, so, like, you can play one or the other first. I low-key wish I played the game first, but still really good. Yeah. And, God only help the poor actress who gets cast as Abby in the second season of The Last of Us. That's gonna be a shitstorm. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you guys?
Okay, so I've, as far as what I've been, like, watching... I haven't watched a whole lot of movies, like, really recently, but I've seen some cool shit in theaters. Not too long ago, I saw Beau is Afraid. And
I've been meaning to see that. It looks really good.
That was fantastic. Easily
like, it's somewhat mixed with some people, but the people whose opinions I most respect really like it, so.
It's my favorite Ari Aster movie so far. Right. I saw Evil Dead Rise, and, you know, I gave my opinions on that. Musically, I've just been listening to a lot of, like, classic heavy metal lately and stuff, which I'm already, like, really familiar with, but, you know, fucking Dio, Maiden, Priest, all that good stuff. But also, like, some Suffocation, Psychotic Waltz, and all that shit. And also, like, Bjork, which, like, weirdly doesn't fit all that well. But,
well, you're pretty much always listening to Bjork, so...
That's true. But I've also been fucking going back on, like, a bit of a hip-hop kick and stuff. Jay Dilla, Public Enemy, fucking... Also, like, just LP and his projects, Techno Animal, Dialect, all that. JPEG Mafia. Like I just said, I fucking played through The Last of Us, and that was pretty great. Like, it was linear, but not necessarily in a bad way for the most part. I do think that, like, sometimes the environments are a little too linear, though. Like, there's, like, only one way you can go a lot of the time, and it got a little contrived at times. It wasn't, like, a big problem. It was just, like, a minor annoyance, but, like, I loved the combat, especially the fact that there was, like, no auto-aim and shit.
Right. The one thing that kind of irritated me, even though I'm glad it works the way it does, is sometimes Ellie would kind of walk kind of right in front of, like, in the view of someone who you're stealthing against, and they don't notice. Which I'm glad it does that, because if they notice because of Ellie, I would be pissed. But still, it kind of takes you out of it. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, but they still pick the better choice. And also, when you would stealth an enemy, they would definitely hear you take them out most of the time.
There was a fucking point where, like, I was walking through, like, a doorway, but Ellie was, like, standing in the doorway or whatever, and I was like, dude, move. But I didn't want to, like, swing at her because I didn't want to hit Ellie, so I was just, like, walking forward, like, get out of my way, child!
God, also, one of the funny things when I was playing it is the last kill where you're killing, the last big kill before you do the thing. I don't know. It's an old game. I probably shouldn't worry about spoilers too much, but it's like the last really important kill. I didn't realize it because by that point I was kind of running out of ammo, so I had the flamethrower out, and I barely used the flamethrower. So arguably the most important kill you make in that game, I did it with a flamethrower. So yeah.
Oh, happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've also been, like, replaying GTA 5, and this is the first time I've been playing it with, like, friends and stuff, so, like, that was really fun.
What, the online or single player?
Single player.
I replayed it about a year ago. It's still great.
For sure. And, you know, I'm currently fucking going through Silent Hill 2, which, yeah, dated-ass controls, and the voice acting is not that good, but it's really immersive. I love the fucking soundtrack and all that, and the story is interesting so far. I am really excited to see where it goes, because it's one of those games that people continuously cite as, like, an example of, like, video games being done effectively as, like, an art form and stuff, so that's cool.
I actually have something to say this time, because I know last time I didn't.
Dun!
Yep. In terms of movies, I haven't been watching too many, but I did go to see one in theaters. Both of you aren't going to know what this is, but it's called Shin Kamen Rider. It's made by the same people who made Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman. And Shin Godzilla is, like, the most well-known of those, at least in Western parts of the world. But if you guys have ever seen, like, Power Rangers, and you looked past, like, the really cheap elements of it, or even found, like, some form of endearment in those really cheap looking elements, Shin Kamen Rider is all of that and then some. It is camp to the extreme. The cheapness not only, you know, shows, but it also, like, prides itself on its cheapness. Like, it's definitely for people who love their camp, like, super fucking heavy. But there's also some good effects too. Like, a lot of the effects in that movie are practical. Like some explosions and shit. They'll explode some miniatures. They'll have, like, actual stunts being performed. There is some bad CGI in there, but, you know, it's a Japanese film, so what do you expect? But that is good. I recommend it. I can't say too much about it without sounding like a nerd. And that being said, in the theater, oh boy, were there nerds. There was even a dude wearing a fedora in the row in front of us. Like...
Oh dear.
That was... yeah. And, there was a lot of people who, like, whenever a certain suit would appear on screen or a certain monster would appear on screen, they'd be like, oh, that's from Kamen Rider, this episode, this show. It's like, oh, fuck. Can I just watch the movie?
Nerds. Nerd culture was a mistake.
Yeah, but all in all, it was a good experience. Like, I liked the movie. I really liked some of the effects in it. The story and dialogue borderline make no sense at certain points. Like, imagine Kung Fury, but with, like, Japanese tokusatsu. Like, that's basically what Shin Kamen Rider is, and it prides itself on it. I love it. In terms of
None
music,
of those words are in the Bible.
In terms of music, yeah, James is heavily against anything Japanese, and I assume that has to do with, you know, Australia, like, being close to Japan, like, closer to it than the United States, so he must hate Japanese people. Yeah, it's kind of a
Springfield, Shelbyville type thing.
But in terms of, I think I was going on about video games.
He's irrationally prejudiced against anime.
Well, it's not anime. I can definitely say that. It's not anime.
I know, I was just saying that as, like, a fucking...
Just a blanket.
Hey, I mean, like, I know you've tried to call me an Orientalist, which that's not really too true.
I wasn't being like.
I know.
Serious.
I know.
In terms of video games, there's not much.
God.
I've gotten back into playing. Actually, no, I won't say that out of embarrassment. So, I've also gotten back into playing. I've gotten back into playing League of Legends. It's absolutely awful. I suck at the game, and I hate every other player who isn't, good. But, it's addicting. You want to win the match, and you lose the match, and then you're like, wow, this game fucking sucks.
This was everybody else's fault but mine.
Exactly, it's the developer's fault.
I've literally played Hoonie Pop, so no judgment here.
I was that 13-year-old fucking annoying piece of shit on Black Ops 2 back in the day. Except I never took the game that seriously. I just wanted to fuck with people, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I always was with multiplayer games.
I haven't played that many video games recently, that I haven't just been rotating between. It's either League of Legends or strategy games or some shit. I want to get back into playing some first-person shooter games that I own, but all of them haven't been updated in so long. They're 2013 type shit. So.
Oh God, one of my funniest memories, I remember I was playing Hardcore Domination or something like that from Black Ops 2. One guy saying, guys, I'm one off a fucking big kill streak or whatever. But in Hardcore, you can actually kill your enemies. That's the thing, you have much less health, and you have to watch your friendly fire because you can kill your enemies. You're allowed 1 or 2 before you get booted out of the match.
Teammates,
you mean?
Yeah,
teammate.
Yeah, you can kill your enemies.
Shut up. But you can kill your teammates. I think it's mainly just because you gotta watch your friendly fire, all that kind of stuff. But you can usually get away with about 1 or 2 before you get kicked out of the match. And I would always use it intentionally to fuck with people. As long as I'm one off a really big kill streak, and then I would kill them, and then they would get very mad at me. Yeah, that's the kind of guy I was in multiplayer games.
It would not be a good idea for me to play Call of Duty online with a microphone these days, because if some little kid said some shit to me, I would just be like, I will piss in your mom's asshole, you little late-term abortion.
No, oh god, no, it's funny. Back in the day with the PS3, you could go into your settings and make it so that the voice that came out of your headset was a different pitch. And I would only do it ever so slightly and do a squeaker voice, which I could actually do pretty convincingly, at least back in the day before my voice really dropped. And I'll just fuck with people.
In terms of books, there are, I've gotten a series of books about, reggae history and stuff like that, because I'm planning on doing at least a few videos about certain artists in that genre. The one I'm starting on right now is called, Bass Culture, When Reggae Was King. And I gotta say, for a genre that doesn't get a whole lot of exposure beyond, Bob Marley, or maybe his kids, or maybe Lee Scratch Perry, the book has so much information dating back to the 50s in Jamaican culture, where it's very interesting, and also how it impacted other music scenes in the world at that time too. Later on, reggae would influence post-punk music and dub music and shit like that, but hearing it go from American R&B to ska is wow, it's something to read if you're definitely into that culture.
People forget how important reggae is to popular culture as a whole. Not just ska and related genres, but we likely wouldn't have goth rock in its current formation if it wasn't for reggae.
Yeah,
because the Bauhaus song "Bela Lugosi's Dead" was supposed to be a dub song.
Yeah, there's some really out there genres that have been influenced by reggae, and what I want to do is that the reason why I bought the books is that I don't just want to, do a regular type retrospective video where it's hey, we're going to be reviewing the discography of this artist. I feel after reading as far as I did into this book, and I'm only past the first few chapters or so, it kind of takes an understanding of how the genre came to be and what conditions the music was made in order to actually get what the music's going for. And I want to be as true to that as possible. So reading up on the history of those things and cross-referencing them, of course, in case there's some incorrect takes or controversial takes. That's gonna be
God,
important. I feel like.
No matter what you do, you'll always have one guy in the comments being like, actually, even if you're completely right, like they'll
Like,
convince themselves that they're right, you're wrong. Because especially like my Runaways video, I had Jackie Fox, the bass player of that band, comments on my video saying, yeah, this is pretty accurate. Yet I had this one guy write a fucking novel about how wrong I am. So
yeah,
you know,
I mean, I'm not gonna aim to be like, you know, an encyclopedia of knowledge about the genre, but I at least want to like approach it with like the correct like frame of mind and understanding of where it all comes from. Because it's like the major mistake I made when reviewing like let's say rap music and rock music is that I didn't actually understand that there were, you know, specific conditions and events that actually led to some of these, you know, game-changing things happening, or less than game-changing things happening. Like, right. you find a new appreciation for music when you know what goes on behind it, and yeah,
totally, yeah.
But that's it
like,
for what I have been doing.
Like, I've been on and offing reading that Replacement's autobiography to do a video on them forever. I just can't really enjoy reading the book too much because I've been writing down everything I find interesting that I don't want to forget. And that kind of doesn't make it as fun anymore. So I've just been inching through it one by one. Like,
yeah, it turns into like a book report.
Yeah, almost. Which, in a way, I guess that's what I'm doing. But but the thing is, I want to write them down because I don't trust myself in remembering every little thing that I want to remember. So, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. All we have to say, I think. We got anything else?
Hopefully nobody sees the new Mario movie, not because of any level of quality, but because it's made by Illumination. And if you
People fucking forget that, man. What the fuck?
Remember, if you support Illumination in any way, even if they have a successful movie, you are asking for more Minions shit. Just because you get instant gratification.
Death of cinema.
Yeah, just because you get instant gratification with a Super Mario Brothers movie that's actually fucking good for once, yay, surprise, you're gonna get more fucking Minions movies now. Fuck all of you.
Just cause you're soy face, like, oh my god, it's the background of a Mario character from Super Mario World. Oh my god, so many references. References don't make a movie, you fucking cuck.
I love how in order to make it a movie, they had to do the good old, they started in the, spoiler alert, they started in the real world. No, they start in the real world, and then they end up in fantasy world. Yeah, that worked so great the first time you did it.
I would unironically watch the 90s Super Mario movie over this new one, because at least that one showed a little bit of fucking creativity. And not just, hey, remember Mario Kart? Hey, remember Super Mario 64?
I own
Not
the
gonna
Mario
lie,
movie.
the original Mario movie does have some, like, childhood sentimental value for me.
It's not that fucking bad. It's a shit Mario adaptation, sure, but they had nothing to work with at that point. That's something you also got to consider. Literally nothing to work with.
They had Dennis Hopper.
It wasn't even, like, a part of the picture at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And Charles Martinet only did a fucking cameo in this new one, which, yeah, way to show respect to voice actors, fucking Nintendo and Illumination. Just because you get a good, just because you get a decent actor who can do stuff live action doesn't mean they can do good voice acting. Two very different things. That's why most of the best voice actors you see aren't really live action people. Most of the best live action actors you see don't do too much voice acting type stuff. It's different skill sets you need. Sure, there's people like James Earl Jones or pretty much the entire cast of the original Lion King, but that's because they're good. They could do it well. Meanwhile, for that quote unquote live action remake, they just got a bunch of celebrities like fucking Beyonce and Seth Rogen. You know, it's garbage.
Remember, Nintendo is a good company when it comes to delivering quality products, but they are not a good company when it comes to ethics and morality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people are too quick to like just kind of suck the teat of Nintendo, which, okay, like, fine. I love fucking Super Mario 3D World 2. Doesn't mean you gotta be a fucking sheep.
I get the culture difference between, you know, like Japanese executives and Nintendo versus, you know, the Western culture of America, but like, really, if you're gonna, you know, play copyright battles with content creators on YouTube, if you're going to send cease and desist letters to people who run emulators of your games to continue playing your games
That you
in
don't
the
even
modern
sell
day,
anymore.
that you don't even sell anymore, and are not announcing any plans to sell them in the future, and you're gonna partner with Illumination Animation, the studio that is effectively putting a lot of animators' jobs kind of in the toilet because they can make cheap looking content. Yeah, dog shit, cheap looking content that doesn't care about actual animation quality or character design. Like, no, ethics are out the window with Nintendo at this point.
People love to shit on EA and Activision, which fair enough, by all means, shit on them. But no one ever says anything about Nintendo because they still make great stuff. But that can only be so much of a shield. Like, sure, fair enough. Okay, you love Breath of the Wild, but dude, this company is still terrible.
Exactly.
Like, I'll never forget when they went after some guy who, fair enough, he was scamming people with like jailbroken Nintendo Switches and all that kind of stuff, which they gave him a jail sentence of I can't remember how long. And even when he gets out of jail, he'll have to continue paying dividends or whatever the name is, whatever that word is, to
That's
Nintendo for the rest of his life. Like, basically ruined this man's life.
Yeah, you basically...
Like, people saying, oh, but he's a scammer, he's this, he's that. But I don't give a fuck. Let him serve his time, sure, whatever. But don't you think that's a bit much?
Yeah, have you seen any other scammer actually get the amount of, like, you know, harsh, like retribution to a crime that this dude has? Like, the reason why it made headlines is because it was so legendarily harsh, and even if it is scamming, at the same time, it's like, are you gonna hold double standards for this shit just because of, like, the company that's behind it?
Yeah, just because, oh no, he gave out fucking ROMs of fucking Super Mario Double Dash. I don't care!
Exactly. Nobody gives a shit when people pirate Activision games.
Yeah.
Now I'm just imagining a fourth wall break in like the fucking Mario movie where like Charles Martinet like hijacks Mario's character and then he just looks at the camera and he's like, you are participating in the cinema.
You cut out a lot during that section.
I will not restate it.
Just fill it in with, like, random noises or, like, try to finish his sentence, like, connect the dots or some shit.
No, I'm censoring every bit that was, that cut out.
Just censor every bit that didn't have his audio in it. So just like
anyway, I think that's it. We got that little rant out of our systems. Fuck Nintendo. Have a good one. See you later.
Kiss my belly button from the inside.
Nah, it's my job.
I love Repentless.